Good morning, and welcome to the first of which will hopefully be several videos documenting my trip here in Namibia. It is 8 o'clock in the morning right now. As you can see, I'm wearing a bandana over my head to cover my ears because it is cold. It's winter time here in the southern hemisphere. Temperatures overnight mid to high 40s, and they reach up to the low 70s, high 60s during the day. But there's a cold front coming, so it may be dropping in the next coming days. I am in the capital city right now, Windhoek, a population of about 350,000. So just to give you a little bit of information on the country itself, Namibia, because I know most people probably haven't really heard of Namibia. You may have seen it on National Geographic or on Travel Channel. It is kind of the lesser known of the big African destinations in Southern Africa and East Africa. As you can see, it's morning here on Sunday, so I don't know, there's quite a bit of traffic out there. I hope you can still hear me. The country is in Southwest Africa. It borders South Africa, Angola, and Botswana. If you look at it on a map, you have the Atlantic Ocean to the west. The country itself, I think, has about 2 million or so people, so it's quite sparsely populated. It's actually one of the least densely populated countries in the planet. I think only, I'm trying to think of some of the countries that beat it, but just to give you an idea, Wyoming is the least densely populated state in the United States, and it has about six people per square mile. But here in Namibia, you have about 2.5 people per square mile. So most of them are obviously located here in the capital city, Windhoek. I probably will have it written down at the bottom here. It's spelled Windhoek. It's a German name, so the W is usually pronounced with a V sound, Windhoek. But there's several different languages here that are spoken. English is the official language. So if you speak English, generally you pronounce it with a W sound, Windhoek. But there's a lot of German speakers here because it is a former German colony. A lot of the street names and places are named after Germans. So it's one of these places that I've always wanted to come to. I can remember even when I was a kid reading National Geographic and hearing about the Namib Desert or the Kalahari or the Skeleton Coast. These are all things that are synonymous with Namibia. It gained its independence in 1990 from South Africa. Like I said, it was called Southwest Africa before. It's one of the more peaceful places in Africa. It doesn't exactly, my first impression so far just of the city, it doesn't look like any place in Africa I've been before. We're surrounded by desert on every side pretty much, or at least the savanna and the desert. But you can see it's quite green. You've got palm trees, mountains. So obviously their irrigation is quite up to par. It's just a nice looking place. I really am enjoying my first few days. I arrived here 2 days ago in the afternoon. And I'm on top of my Airbnb roof right now, recording this video. I'll be here for a couple of more days, and then I'll be moving on to other parts of Namibia for my trip. So just to give you a little bit of a heads up on what to expect going forward, Monday or Tuesday I'll be heading north to the national park. It's called Etosha National Park. It's a game reserve, and it's not quite as famous as some of the other counterparts here in Africa. When you think of safaris, people usually think of the Serengeti in Tanzania or the Masai Mara in Kenya, maybe Kruger National Park in South Africa. So Namibia doesn't quite get as many tourists as these places, but it still is popular among those people who know, if you've done the research. So after I go there, I'll be there for about 5 nights doing a self-guided, self-drive safari. So that means I'm here pretty much on my own, doing my own thing. So I'll rent a car, I'll drive to the national park. I've got lodging already set up. I wanted to do camping originally, but because this trip was kind of spur of the moment, most people plan safaris, 18 months in advance. They know what they're doing a long time before they're coming. This was like a month and a half, 2 months ago that I decided to come here. So the camping options were quite limited. I also don't have that much experience camping on my own, so I thought I'll just book the lodges. A little bit more expensive than I would have liked it to be, but that's all right. So I'll be driving to these locations on my own, and then I'll be doing the game drives, the safari drives on my own as well. So I've had to do some research, learn a little bit about safety and what it takes to handle yourself when you're when you're in the national park. But luckily, a lot of people think that when you come to these places, you're in the absolute wilderness by yourself. But in reality, I mean, most of the time when you're seeing these, animals in Africa, you're in national parks. You're in places that have park rangers, you have other tourists. So for the most part, I'm not too worried about being on my own. It's going to be fun, a unique experience, and hopefully I can kind of learn the ropes here a little bit. And then in the future, my plan ultimately is to invite some friends back with me, and we can do camping and kind of do the real rough part of it. I've got about 10 days planned out here in Namibia. After that, I'm not sure what I'm doing. My return flight back to Dubai is in the middle of August from Zimbabwe. So I'm either going to continue on west through Botswana and Zimbabwe, see Victoria Falls, and just kind of travel through there, maybe the Okavango Delta, which is a famous spot in Botswana. But I also, maybe after 2 weeks here, I might just decide to go do something else. Maybe, doing this on my own, and it being cold, I might be tired and just want to maybe take a vacation, go back to Southeast Asia and sit on a beach or something a little bit more relaxing. But we'll see. I'm open. That's kind of the beauty of doing this independently and not being part of a tour group and kind of winging it. And that's kind of my MO for travel, is to not put too much preparation into it. I actually plan in the future to create an entire video talking about being an independent traveler and being a bit of an unprepared traveler. I know that sounds bad. I mean, you don't want to go into the African savannah, unprepared, but sometimes over-preparing can take away from the experience as well. So I do plan on at some point making a video talking all about that, because I think one of the reasons people have trouble preparing and planning for trips is because it's too overwhelming. And what I end up doing is I just buy a ticket to a place and then I figure it out later. And because of that, sometimes I miss things, or sometimes there's, like in this case, I'm not camping because there's no campsites available because it's a high season in July and August. So there's trade-offs for it. The cons are you might spend more money on certain things and you might miss out on certain things, but the pros are that you can move around and do what you want when you want to do it. So that's ultimately what I try to do. What else? Let's see. After I finish the safari, I'm going to be driving either back here to Windhoek, or I'm going to be heading straight to the coast and visiting some of the sand dunes. It's really quite amazing in Namibia, where the Atlantic Ocean meets the huge sand dunes. It's the oldest desert in the world, the Namib, and you have these big sand dunes that kind of roll for hundreds of miles. You can see elephants along the coast and other animals. There's some adventure things that I might be able to do, like skydiving or a helicopter ride or a hot air balloon. All things that I haven't planned out or booked or reserved yet, hoping to get a better price once I arrive, because a lot of times when you book online ahead, you do get a higher price. So let me just tell you a little bit, I guess, about Windhoek before I finish here. It's again quite a beautiful city. It has a lot of German influence, a lot of steak houses, a lot of beer houses. Everybody seems really friendly so far. As far as an African capital city, this is about the safest I've felt. That being said, I've been warned by several locals to be careful walking alone, especially at night. But that's pretty common sense stuff once you've done a little bit of travel. You just be careful in the evenings, get a taxi straight to your destination. Even during the day, I don't walk around with this camera. I wouldn't be filming on the streets here, because you just don't want to draw attention to yourself. I typically, when I'm traveling, I wear jeans, black shirts, and regular looking sweaters like this. I try not to do the safari hat or the shorts and the Columbia jacket or North Face jacket, because that just screams that you're a tourist. So you try to blend in the best you can when you're in a place like this. But no, I haven't felt in any danger or any risks so far, so that's good. A couple of sites here to see. It's a small town, so there's not really a whole lot to see. There's a national museum that I visited yesterday that tells you the history of liberation and occupation from the Germans and all that in the colonial times. Next to that's a beautiful, what I think is a Lutheran church that's been here for quite a while in the city center. Be happy to report there are no McDonald's, no Pizza Huts, no Subways, no Burger Kings, no American brands other than one KFC in the center of town that is a bit of an eyesore, but whatever, it happens. So yeah, I'll be hopefully posting a couple more videos going forward. I hope you enjoyed this one, gave you a little bit of information about Namibia and Windhoek where I'm at now. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.